Hello again, and welcome back to another episode of Dr. Tosin's Surgery. Today, we are going to be talking about the amazing ways to naturally lower your cholesterol levels. It's been a long time coming. I did a post recently on Instagram about how to naturally lower cholesterol levels and said I'd expand on it. So here is what we're doing for today's podcast. This is episode 13 of Dr. Tosin's Surgery, and the topic is how to keep your cholesterol levels low. Amazing ways to naturally lower your cholesterol levels. Obviously, first place to start, what is cholesterol? I keep saying cholesterol, cortisol, that's what I mean, sorry, cortisol, to how to lower your cortisol levels. Now, cortisol is a hormone that is secreted on the from the adrenal gland. If you don't know what your adrenal gland is, you've got two adrenal glands. They are located on either side on top of the kidneys. They're tiny pea balls about this yay size on top of each kidneys, and they secrete particular hormones. They also secrete the adrenaline as well, and the sex hormones, testosterone as well. The different sections. So we're focusing on cortisol. Now, cortisol is what we call a glucocorticoid hormone. I'm just a bit of medical terms there, but to keep it simple, it's a steroid. Let's just look at it as a steroid hormone that is secreted. And the next question, obviously, we want to find out what exactly does cortisol do. Now, if we were to talk about it, I think we have to start with the fact that it's released. It's like what we call a diurnal. Twice a day, two different types of the day. It's stimulated and released in the body. Particularly, we want to focus on what it does, especially the levels in the morning when people wake up, whether it's too high or it's too low. We'd like to always keep it at a fairly minimum balance. Main thing the receptors of cortisol are scattered throughout the whole body. Entirely, almost every cell in your body has some cortisol receptors in them, and the hormone has effect on most of them. Most things happen with the fact that they help with essential functions of what they can help you do. One, they help with the when you sleep-wake cycle, when you wake up, when you go to bed, and they keep you awake and alert when cortisol is released and it goes to receptors. It also plays a role in preventing fatigue and brain fog. That's a lot of people, you can hear people telling that they feel just tired all the time. Sometimes they may have to just check their cholesterol. I keep saying cholesterol. What's with that? Cortisol. They've got to check their cortisol levels. It also plays a role, cortisol, believe it or not, in a long-winded process of helping you balance your sugar levels and how there's an interaction between how glucose and insulin get into the cell. Cortisol also plays a role in there. It's a bit more scientific, and I don't want to geek out on science there. I basically don't want to be talking too much scientific stuff and bore everybody out. It plays a role in helping metabolism as well. It plays a lot of functions. It helps with the body and lots of things going on. Goes down as helping you deal with perceived dangers. I mean, it's people know it as the stress hormone, to say. When you get into your fight or flight mode, it's not only adrenaline that is released, but cortisol levels can go high, especially doing high levels of stress. The way we're structured as human beings is back in the days when I say the days, man, I'm talking of like eons ago, during our ancestors, when you had to fight off saber-toothed tigers or run from big mammoths. Cortisol levels had to be really there to get you going quickly in order to get you out of danger. But obviously, we are no more in that particular situation. The levels of stress have changed now, and things we are afraid of are kind of different. But a lot of people are living in a state of chronic stress with sustained high cortisol levels, which is not good. So I'm here to talk about natural ways that you can help reduce this particular hormone called cortisol. So next thing is, how do you know you've got high levels of cortisol? That should be things you find, what we call symptoms in medicine, symptoms and signs. Weight gain is one of the primary things. I mean, high levels of cortisol have been attributed to weight gain, and some people find that when their cortisol levels are out of sync, they start putting on weight. It can be due to water retention as well. The body retains more water than it should. You get puffy, flushed face. It can also lead to things like elevated blood pressure, increased anxiety, and you can find that you can have changes in your libido and your libido level. And also, we are with all this as well, you can also find that you get problems for women. They get problems with fertility, and irregular periods can also come in, and people find out that if they're not drinking lots of fluid, they get quite thirsty. These are all signs of high cortisol levels. I mean, these symptoms and signs are not specific per se to high levels of cortisol. You can find them in other deficiencies or medical issues as well. It has to do, obviously, if you think you've got a problem, we will always say speak to your physician, if you've got a GP, your family doctor, or any medical personnel that you consult, and they will do a proper what we call clocking and take a history, and they may be able to elucidate if there are any other problems there. So high levels of cortisol. Now, natural ways to lower this. We're talking about how to do this without obviously taking medication. I'm putting this here is if you have clinical problems where there are other medical conditions causing this, it may be better to speak to a physician or a medical personnel, healthcare professional first, while doing these particular things as well, because you may need testing. There's something called Cushing's syndrome and Cushing's disease, which can be either genetic, congenital, or linked to other factors, and will need more medical personnel involved. So natural ways. One of the first ways to do that is to, I believe so much in diet, is to go into whole food anti-inflammatory diet. I'll give you an example of an anti-inflammatory diet. Yes, ketogenic diet. I like the ketogenic diet quite a lot. I'm in favor of that particular diet, but there are other particular ways you can get into an anti-inflammatory diet. What I mean is try and consume whole foods that have not been highly processed. Processed foods, for instance, foods that if you turn the back and you cannot read what's written there, well, you read it and you do not know if anything that starts with E or it has a shelf life very long, those are probably going to be highly inflammatory to your system. Other things that can be highly inflammatory to your system are products that are high in sugar. Pretty much find out that a lot of products on the shelf now have some content of sugar or another in some processed form, be it processed sugar, be it corn fruit syrup, fructose syrup, or every type of sugar can cause an inflammatory problem in the body. So if you take low processed foods that are high in antioxidants and fibers, and they contain the essential nutrients that can help balance out your body, these can help with your anti-inflammatory, get your anti-inflammatory levels low, and can help keep your cortisol levels down. Like we said, these strategies help support your adrenal system, and it can give you energy levels that are sustained throughout the day when your cortisol levels are low. So that's the first thing. So switch to whole foods, stay on an anti-inflammatory diet. An example of that, for instance, like I said, is the ketogenic diet. Like I said, and I support that diet quite a lot. I do believe in it. There are a lot of scientific things behind it. It's not necessarily saying that that's the only diet that works, or it's not, I would say it's not for everybody, but if you can try it and see if you can do it well, that'll be quite beneficial to you. It's an anti-inflammatory diet. Number 2, exercise. Yep, I mean, research has flogged the level of benefits of exercising and how exercise helps in many factors. So we also have found that research has been published, especially I think from the Harvard Medical School, that 30 to 60 minutes a day of exercise at least 5 times a day of exercise, depending on the intensity, can be low intensity, moderate intensity, high intensity, whatever, just get some exercise. It helps to manage the stress, it balances the hormones, and it keeps your cortisol levels low. I mean, with the release of the runner's high, for instance, the endorphin is not only, obviously it's not only with running, you get that with any form of exercise. It helps keep cortisol levels low, and if cortisol levels are low, things like sleep become better, you're able to balance out your hormones, other metabolic functions get in sync, and your body becomes more insulin sensitive. That's really a key importance, especially in this age of high levels of diabetes. I mean, there was a term coined by some chap I listened to called diabesity. That's an interesting term. Obviously putting diabetes and obesity together. Not only are people becoming lacking levels of insulin, people are becoming insulin resistant. So when you exercise, your body gets high levels. What say high levels? You get endorphins. You lower your cortisol, and your body becomes more insulin sensitive, which can help lower your sugar levels as well. Exercise is another good thing. So exercise is number 2. Number 3, I think everybody knows this. Get enough sleep, man. Get some sleep. Sleep has been shown to play an important role in keeping cortisol levels down. Research has shown that people should get ideally 8 hours of sleep every day. I personally know I'm not there at 8 yet. I mean, I struggle to get up to 7, to be honest with you, but I try and get some good sleep. I mean, going to bed at a certain time of the day, waking up at a certain time is quite helpful. I mean, what we call in UK, we have the body called NICE, that's the National Institute of Clinical Excellence. They've come up with a practice called sleep hygiene, where you have fixed times to go to bed. I mean, problems we have these days obviously is with devices, mobile phones, laptops, computers, TVs. They're just constantly emitting blue light energy to us, and that is actually affecting our circadian rhythm. And when your circadian rhythm is thrown out of sync, it messes up with your cortisol levels as well. And when your cortisol levels are messed up, that leads to all the signs and symptoms we talked about in the initial at the beginning, where you have the signs and symptoms, things like putting on weight, high blood pressure, increased mood swings, increased anxiety, water retention. All those things play a big role. So get enough sleep. Studies show that 8 hours of sleep every day is what is recommended. I mean, there are some studies that are coming out and saying that good levels of sleep have been shown to reduce the risk of developing dementia at a later life. Yeah, so sleep better to prevent things like dementia, because when you sleep is when new networks in the brain are formed. You consolidate your short-term to long-term memory when you sleep, which is why it's important to get good sleep, particularly the REM sleep, which is quite important. Yeah, so sleep, get a good sleep hygiene, get enough sleep. That will help naturally lower your cortisol levels. See, I nearly said cholesterol again. I don't know. I think I probably need to talk about cholesterol since it keeps popping into my mind. Number 4, other ways to help naturally lower your cortisol levels. The use of superfoods or naturally growing anti-inflammatory herbs. Now, these herbs have been termed adaptogen herbs. What it actually means is that they are immunomodulators. The way to put it is they can help keep your immune system at a good level. They also help regulate things, your hormones, cortisol being one of the hormones. Now, if you've not heard of these herbs, if you've been going around the internet, you probably have heard of things like reishi mushrooms, which are good for people going to sleep, ashwagandha, holy basil, rhodiola. These are things, and to be honest, these days with the way the internet is, you can get everything off online. I mean, Amazon would be a good place to go to. I know you can pick reishi mushrooms off on the internet and buy them and get them. They make a nice good cup of tea. They are quite good to help people sleep. And cordyceps, that's another one where you can get them naturally. If you get to your whole food store section, they are there. You can pick up all these products, things like spirulina. There's another one that keeps missing my mind. Spirulina is the one I've had recently. They help with lowering and reducing cortisol levels as well. So get these mushrooms, mix them in like your hot cocoa or tea when you're going to bed at night. They'll help get you to sleep as well, and they'll help lower your cortisol levels. Gosh, I nearly said cholesterol again. Something's going on with cholesterol. I really need to talk about that sometime soon. So yes, so we are number 4. Number 4, talking about adaptogen herbs and superfoods that help lower your cortisol levels. So we mentioned reishi mushrooms, rhodiola, cordyceps, ashwagandha, holy basil. These are just examples. I think the commonest one that I'd probably like are the reishi mushrooms and spirulina, because I know I've been able to access them. These are the ones I've mentioned. I personally would say I've not used them yet, but the ones I know I've used are the reishi mushrooms and spirulina. You can mix it in a cup of tea, or well, I take coffee most of the time, except at night here before I go to bed. I take coffee and I put this in it, and it's quite good, quite helpful. Number 5, another way to help lower your cortisol levels, you could do stress relieving practices. Now, well, when you say stress relieving practices, people talk about things like deep breathing exercises. I follow a chap called Jim Quick, and he's got a nice, lovely routine where in the morning you wake up, and I think it's done by a lot of people well. We've got Dr. Chatterjee as well that promotes it. Early morning deep breathing exercises. It doesn't take more than 5 minutes. Immediately you get up from bed, you get into a practice. I mean, first things first, meditation and mindfulness practice. It's getting quite common now, but it's been there. People have been doing it. Now science is they are validating it, to say science is validating the use of meditation and mindfulness and practice. And as a Christian, you do one form of meditation or another. I mean, a healing prayer for 10 to 15 minutes a day has been shown to reduce significant levels of cortisol, reduce cortisol levels in the body. So if you're a Christian or if you're a Muslim, any religion, any form of meditation you do early in the morning in a quiet place with deep breathing exercises will lower your cortisol levels. So it's a good practice. Like Jim Quick said, he wakes up in the morning, take your 3 deep breaths. What he does first, interestingly, is he tries to write down his dreams in his journal. Then he goes into his meditation practice. I have to do that with him. 5 minutes in the morning, deep breathing exercises, take some gratitude and meditate for 5 to 10 minutes. You can do 10, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, up to you. All these help in improving cortisol levels, brain health, and studies have shown that this actually even improves your immune system. Yeah, they took time out and they measured the anti-inflammatory things in the body. They also measured the immune system factors, what we call the cytokines, interleukins, and your inflammatory levels, and they found that these were all reduced, or the cytokines and interleukins were all reduced when it came to modulating your immune system. Another thing that has been said to help lower cortisol levels naturally is acupuncture. And I personally haven't had acupuncture before, but if you have and you want to give a shout out and tell us how it was, marvelous, good. I have had clients and patients that I've seen that have tried it for different other things, and it has worked. I mean, it is listed on our National Institute of Clinical Excellence as a form of treatment for other types of diseases or the medical ailments in a wide spectrum. Acupuncture, I mean, it's coming quite well to help with things. So we've talked about those things. So we've talked about 5 ways we can help reduce cortisol levels. So we've talked about anti-inflammatory diet reduction, exercising regularly, getting enough sleep, using adaptogen herbs and superfoods, and doing stress relieving practices that can help you. So that drops up to the end of our session today. I mean, we'll be catching up next week with further tips on what to do. I might look into doing cortisol, but I only want to talk about exercising, and we probably will be doing that as well. So thank you everybody for coming online, those watching on Facebook and those watching on YouTube as well. Drop me a line, subscribe, like, leave a comment. Let me know what you thought about this episode and what you want to hear more about. So this is Dr. Tosin on Dr. Tosin Surgery. Thank you very much and have a lovely day.